First day of portal, ladies and gentlemen. April 16th it starts. April 25th it closes, meaning we're going to have a week of mayhem as we've got the spring game coming up on Saturday. You know, Coach Prime's got some moving around to do to get some of these holes filled in. So you know what you got to do. Smash the like button, turn the bell on, because if it happens, we're going to talk about it. Let's roll into the intro. Let's talk about who's left, who's visiting, what could be coming in. All kinds of good stuff. We're going to have a blast. Let's get in. First order of business, freshman wide receiver Adrian Wilson just got here to the Buffs 3 months ago in December, committed in December, and he's already headed out. It sounds like a lot of these other wide receivers. We obviously had the Tulsa wide receiver, Joseph Williams commit, but Amarian and Quinnell have definitely made a huge step up in spring ball. And as a true freshman, again, you would think, okay, wait around, see what's going to happen. But we talked about this in yesterday's show that, look, a lot of these targets, a lot of these guys coming in, the expectation and the anticipation is to be an impact player right away. And I don't think if Coach Price is like, look, you're going to sit and we'll have you here, but these guys have made leaps and bounds and strides further than we thought you would or you thought you would. And again, the expectation is to come into Colorado, more than likely play right away. So we talked about this as well. It's going to kind of be this revolving door, revolving door. That's just the anticipation of what it's going to be like down there in Boulder. Savion Riley, also formerly from Vanderbilt, he also entered into the portal as well. Again, I think it's the fourth or fifth now that has entered into the portal over the last 2 days. It's officially open today, although we did see some names rolling through earlier yesterday. Keep in mind, with the date closing on the 25th, we learned from previous portals that we'll probably see names slowly trickle in and slowly come in. Look, it was busy today. A lot of running backs, 5 running backs from California entered into the portal. It was mayhem in the sense of a lot of talent headed into the portal. So we'll see what Colorado does. They have someone visiting, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. But how about Nico Imulava headed out to UCLA? It seems to be finalized, broke by Colin Cowherd. It was never a money situation. It was about an offense situation. So the portal, man, it giveth and it taketh. That seems to be the taking the cake as of now from the portal news sense of the big movement. But we'll talk more about that if it does end up affecting Boulder, which I don't believe that it will. Set to visit this weekend, though, is DB Deion Parks. Take a look at his graphic here. I've got it pulled up a little bit bigger on my end so I can see it a little bit better. Listen, 80.1 defensive grade, 81.2 coverage grade, 6'1", 180, going into a sophomore class. Massive jump last year, or going to his junior class, excuse me. Massive jump last year in a sophomore season at Illinois State. Overall run defensive grade, 66.3. You've got to think, we've seen this before, we've seen this movie. When Coach Prime gets somebody on campus, especially how we're seeing kind of just this mass exodus, and I don't even want to say mass exodus, but we start seeing names drop, and we're seeing names drop, and guys in those position comes in, it's kind of like, hey, well, thanks for the position. It's kind of an even swap. And we've seen it too just in the portal in general. Typically when a kid makes a visit, they're not there to play games. They're visiting simply to sign the dotted line and make sure that, hey, what they're hearing is factual. So you got to think this young man will eventually become a Buff unless something changes. But if history were to repeat itself, I got to feel pretty good about Deion Parks becoming a Buff here very soon, very shortly. I do want to read this, though. And again, this kind of goes back to this Nico situation here a little bit. Coach Prime said this: we had to make sure we have had the foundation that we need to be successful in this turbulent time in college football. Because the same teams keep going to the playoffs every year, that tells you something about the collectives in the NILs. I don't think it says too much about the program and coaching. I mean, there are some great coaches, don't get me wrong, there are. But if the same teams go every year and they're spending the same amount of money, it's hard to compete with an institution that's spending $25 million on freshmen alone. Now, we've kind of heard him talk about this before a little bit, him being Coach Prime. And again, he's alluded to also taking his own approach, which I do agree. He goes, but our kids come here to play for me and this staff. And I love the approach. I've talked this approach before that they have taken of putting together this elite staff of elite coaches to say, listen, we know we're not going to compete on a money level. We'll do what we can. We'll facilitate you, but we're going for bigger fish here and a bigger opportunity. So in a world where a lot of teams are spending a lot of money, like Tennessee, who, remember, when Nico signed with Tennessee, they spent $8 million. I remember when this happened, it was kind of the very first initiative of NIL. It was so outrageous when we heard it, when Nico assigned the $8 million kid. It felt fake. It didn't feel real. It just felt like it was a number being thrown around to be advertised. And now that we're in it, it's like, that was they were ahead of their time. And they kind of got Nico at a cheap rate, right, with $2 million a year when you really think about it. But he got $4 million to kind of play, 12 games essentially because he didn't play his first year. So they got him on a nice rookie contract, and essentially he was wanting more. Allegedly, now it's coming out he wanted to change the offense. But when you are spending money, you run into that. You run into a culture issue. So in a world where money is a factor, where you got teams that are spending a ton of it, how do you counter that if you don't necessarily have the money? You put together a culture team. You focus on the right things and you build it. Now, with rotating the transporter year in and year out, that is going to be something to keep in mind, is how do you maintain that culture? And I think if you can keep a core group of guys throughout this process and recruit, when you do bring someone in from the recruiting class, or you do bring a guy in from the portal, that they fit the culture, that they fit into the groove that you are trying to accomplish. So look, first day of the portal, nice and easy getting into it. Not too much movement, I would say, that was unexpected from the Buffs on who was going into the portal. Really excited to see who they're going to have on campus and who they're going to bring in. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you feel the Buffs should go after next? What are some names that you're looking at, that you're eyeing, that you would like the Buffs to have on campus? Hey, I feel like this guy can make a big play, would be a great plug-in. Look, we talked about it before. I still feel like they're in a great place to where they're looking to find the right seasons or the right things to place into their cabinets, as Coach Prime would always say, versus just trying to fill the cabinet. So they're still in a good place. They continue to maintain their same formula that they did going into last year, right? Where it seems like guys going out seem to be shuffled out for the right reasons. So let me know in the comment section down below how you're feeling. Who do you like next? And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.